Hi Aries, welcome to your October 2019 reading. Welcome to my channel. You're probably new here because the channel is new. I have been reading tarot for several years now, but I had been doing lives on Facebook daily for the collective, and I decided to shift to YouTube to access a greater audience. So if you're here and watching, thank you so much. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. It would mean the world to me. Hopefully this resonates with you. Do remember they're general readings for the zodiac sign of Aries. Some of it will resonate. Take what you can, leave the rest. Pass it on if it's more relevant to someone else in your life. Could be describing you or your person of interest. What else in my spiel at the beginning here? Yeah, if you're looking for more detailed information specific to you, feel free to reach out for a private reading. I am booking right now, and the information will be in the description box below. Do remember that timing is fluid. Whenever you come across this reading, that's when it's likely meant for you. Don't worry so much about the dates. So we're going to I've already meditated on your sign with the cards, and now we're going to do a shuffle and find out what our overarching energy is for this read for October 2019 for Aries. Ooh. That is so interesting. I had been playing with the cards sort of absent-mindedly as I was about to shift to your reading, and that card came up before, and I went, oh, no, that mustn't be it. Put it back in, and there it is again. So I'm not going to tell you what it is until I get, that's a really interesting combination. All right, so our overarching energy for the month of October, very Halloween-y for you, Aries, the Devil card. Now, don't worry too much. There's many, many meanings to the Devil card, but it does represent all things spooky, but more importantly, it does represent addiction. This is really important to recognize that we can interpret this as an invitation to look at places where we're giving our power away. Where we are getting stuck in addictive energies. We can be addicted to many things. We can be addicted to things like substances, food, Netflix. I'm guilty of that. But also addicted to, hi kitty cat, addicted to people as well, relationships, love. It can be the lust card as well. So understanding the difference between love and lust is a very important lesson. Obviously, there's absolutely nothing wrong with sexuality. Feel free to enjoy yourself responsibly. But this is the overarching energy. So it's just an invitation from Spirit to consider what might be going on in your life that is making you feel chained to something that perhaps isn't good for you. That can also be a situation. I did mention it can be a person, but it could be many people. It could be a job. It could be so many different things. We do have to get deeper into the reading to know. But Devil energy. Do be aware. So this represents Adam and Eve right here. What's interesting about it is that the two figures have chains around their necks, creating the illusion that they're trapped, but they could easily take those chains off. They're quite loose. So be aware of that. And when you do, then you get the Fool card. The ending, closing of a cycle and the beginning of a new one. That's the amazing thing about the Major Arcana and the Zero card. So the zero, like a circle, it's kind of like the snake eating its own tail. It begins at the same place that it ends. Sometimes we think of things existing on a spectrum of extremes. So, 0 and then card number 21, but really they come together and start the next cycle. So when you come into this space of realization, and it's really interesting because the Devil actually has the tip of the pentagram here touching its third eye. So it's an invitation for, I guess, a bit more of a positive take to use this exploration of things that you may be addicted to in one way or another, really opening up to that divine wisdom and figuring out what it is you need to do, shift, change, and get rid of in your life in order to step into that new, beautiful cycle. Because whenever something ends, something new begins, right? So we're going to go to the Psychic Tarot by John Holland, this one here. We're going to find out what Aries needs to know for the month of, oh, I just had this weird thing where I thought it was January for a split second. Oh, wow, it's a lot of cards on the ground. Okay, yep. But it's not, it's October. It's October, Aries. You know that, I know that. October 2019, what does Aries need to know? Interesting, okay. This deck is really cool. It's not traditional tarot. It's got chakra healing cards in it. It's got the major arcana, but they're interpreted differently. I'm going to let you know what that's all about. But what does Aries need to know? These cards are all over the place. Interesting. Okay, we're definitely going to need some clarification, but I'm going to let you know what the first 5 cards are. So, crown chakra. We were just talking about the third eye chakra, but that pentagram here in the devil energy is very much sitting on top of the head. So, pointing towards the third eye, sitting on top of the crown. It's also Capricorn energy if that's relevant to you in some way, but I do really get the sense that this is about sort of doing a self-evaluation right now about what things are necessary and what things are welcome to let go for the time being. I heard the word overwhelmed. Potentially you are feeling overwhelmed, but also eager to start a new cycle. There's a kitty cat on my desk. Can you get there? Good girl. So the crown chakra is what is in need of healing at the moment. There's definitely a sense that potentially we've been feeling down, stewing in some negative thought patterns or energies. It's interesting we don't have any swords on the table here. We do have an invitation to look into the light. This is beautiful. This is, it's either the equivalent of the sun card or the star card. Let me double check. Light. The sun. Yeah. This card reassures you that this is your time to be in the light no matter what's happening around you. Prosperity and bliss are promised. Qualities of this brilliant card are pleasure, happiness, contentment, growth, success, joy, and illumination. Yeah. And it speaks to renewal as well. So there is a cycle that's closing out for you that has to do with addiction, and you are leaving it behind. Again, addiction can also mean people, places, things, not just substances. It can be an addiction to your own negative feelings as well. Okay, so you really have to examine this. Don't worry so much about the traditional meaning of addiction. And then that Fool energy, right? You want to move into the light, and this is you recognizing that, really, really tapping into your own psychic wisdom and your spirituality. Obviously, if you're here watching a tarot reading, you are a spiritual being, and you are walking the path of the woo-woo, so welcome, woohoo. And it really is inviting you to make a pretty significant choice about your life, one that when you do so, when you start this new cycle, and those birds, by the way, represent the past and the future, and then this figure right here, meditating on the edge of the dock, reminds me of that dock at Lake Atitlan, very spiritual, vortex-y place in the world. Sitting there and meditating and really thinking, using heart knowledge. So the green cards here actually represent cup energy. So the 7 of Cups, looking at options. There's a finger pointing towards the light, right? There's all these different directions. There's a closed fist, could be choosing the path of anger, an open one, choosing the path of receptivity. There is one that sort of like looks like it's karate chopping. Maybe it is being very set on one way and, only going that direction. The 2 fingers, sort of like maybe a bit of uncertainty. And then the 1 being like, I'm going to go that way, but having an openness and energy to whatever that path brings. And a flexibility. I get a sense that there's a flexible energy. Also realizing right now, seeing it for the first time, this character down here is sitting there with 2 hands open. So there's a process right now in doing this self-reflection and examining oneself, probably through the process of meditation, really, really being guided to tap into your heart wisdom and not the knowledge, the tool of knowledge that is the brain. It is helpful. It's often defaulting to certain patterns of behavior and thought patterns that are meant to protect us and protect our ego. But as we walk the spiritual path and we consider ways in which we wish to transform and move towards, sorry for the siren, move towards our own enlightenment, whatever that means for you, self-knowledge and true understanding of your divinity, that recognition, really, really considering what that means to you, because it will be different for all of us, and what that path is going to look like. Recognizing that when you drop in, there is going to be clarity that comes, but it does take work to drop in. Sometimes, okay, I'll just meditate on it, and what we do is we just end up sitting there thinking. There's no sword energy currently, so this is not a matter of the mind. This is a matter of the heart. What's really interesting is that, so your overarching energy, the devil and the fool, those are two major arcana. So the major arcana represent the spiritual path rather than the everyday reality. Your spiritual journey has to do with the self-reflection at this time and shedding those layers so that you can move from the heaviness. You can see that the two figures have their heads sort of tilted down. It's a very heavy energy for that card. Versus feeling light. You've dropped some things that you don't need, letting it go. Same with the light card. Looking towards the light. She's got this really light, effervescent energy with the little dewdrops of sun or stars or whatever those are. And then, the lightness of the finger that is pointing towards the light, straight ahead, unwavering, but open. There's also the patience card, right? Very appropriate for our Libra season. This card, I'm going to double check. I'm not super familiar with this deck, but I'm pretty sure that this one represents temperance. Yeah, the patience card reminds you to open your heart and mind and allow yourself to listen to other people's ideas, thoughts, and perspectives. Blissful harmony can be achieved when everyone learns to work as one. All will benefit. Listening, sharing, reaching out will help you renew faith in yourself and humankind. There's potentially a feeling right now of being addicted to, you could be addicted to social media in a way and getting caught in the negativity trap. So we don't want to put our blinders on. That's no good. It's good to stay informed, but sometimes when we're on social media, we can get stuck in the news feed, for example. And oftentimes, so news companies know that what seems to be more attractive to us and catch our attention as human beings, we have a negative bias, and so we have a curiosity towards negative things. It comes from the primal brain and its desire to seek out danger in order to protect itself. So in this sense, it's easy to get caught up in really negative, the negative feelings associated with constantly consuming negative news. And negative messages. So it's about really going within and cutting off from that and shifting your focus towards the light, towards better choices, towards healing that crown chakra, and maybe getting a little bit hermity, taking some time to yourself. That might be a little hard, Aries. I know that you're a team player. You really like to be in leadership roles, but I think now's the time for some very important self-reflection before you can move into that full energy and start something new. And again, temperance, or the patience card, is so appropriate because we're in Libra season. And if you're not familiar with what that means, Libra energy is about coming to a sense of balance, evening things out in your life. There may have been too much of a focus on what's happening in the exterior world, pushing really, really hard for accomplishment, getting things done. And you're being encouraged at this time to have patience with whatever it is that you've been focusing on, and give yourself a little bit of focus on yourself. You do have the 7 card here called Stand Your Ground. It's the 7 of Wands. In the regular Rider-Waite-Smith deck, it's one of protecting oneself, protecting one's own creative ideas, protecting one's beliefs, feeling attacked, is the energy of that card. What I like about this deck is it's less about feeling attacked. It's more about in the face of, I sort of look at this as kind of like ecological grief, the giant comet rushing towards Earth sort of thing. Obviously, that's not what's happening right now, but we are facing a very important time in terms of the survival of humanity, and we have to make big shifts. And you may be feeling some of that ecological grief and being overwhelmed with that right now. That's a potential thing. You are being invited to stand your ground, stand up for what you believe in, but not necessarily in an aggressive way. I don't see tons of action here at the moment. There's definitely no 8 of Wands in front of me, just the 7. So it doesn't have to be ecological grief. It can be about whatever it is that you believe in, but if you're feeling defensive at this time, that's to be expected. Stand your ground, but do it in not a passive way, but in a patient way, a meditative way. Basically, the message here is make good choices. Choose wisely. And then the Devil card. Make good choices. Stand up for your own well-being. You know, maybe this is speaking to boundaries. This could very well be speaking to boundaries. And doing so, and in maintaining your boundaries and protecting yourself in that way, that allows for you to really tap into the crown chakra energy. So actually listening for the voice or the message of spirit, potentially for the first time in your life. Who knows? It's very difficult when there's a lot of voices and a lot of opinions, and there's a lot of noise. You know, imagine you've got your wand, you've got 6 other people with their wands sort of trying to get a word in and trying to share their opinion. It's good to hear other people out, but maybe at this point in time, what you really need to do is go in and listen for your own inner voice, which is a reflection of the divine. So we're going to clarify the crown chakra card. Get a little more information. Ooh, not 20 cards though, that's too many. I feel sort of like a heaviness, a tiredness that sort of came over me when I tapped into your energy. I don't know why. Might be feeling a bit run down. I know that you folks are go-getters for sure. The waiting game. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. So this, as far as I know, is 2 of Wands energy. But it's like in this healing process, you're really reevaluating what your belief system is, what's important to you, what gets your engine going, what lights your fire. The 2 of Wands energy, obviously it is about a waiting game, but it's very much about grounding down. Do you see that there's roots right there? The roots have to grow as deep as the rest of the tree. It's sort of a nod to Libra season, coming into equanimity, into balance. And if you're constantly putting out your energy, go, moving forward, you're not going to be able to make good choices. You're not going to be able to really know what it is that you stand for and then stand up for it if your energy is scattered all the time. There's a certain level of healing that's happening for you, and it's actually some of the highest possible healing. It has to do with you tapping into whatever your spiritual practice is. It's really necessary at this time, and it will be fruitful. You will come out of it, but really the name of the game, gosh, I feel really breathless. This is an intense message. It's very much about giving yourself that chance, giving yourself that opportunity to heal on the crown chakra level and listen for, messages from your guides. Actually looking for the synchronicities from a very open and receptive way instead of like pushing. It's about the waiting game, for sure. Let's clarify the light card. What does Aries need to know for October? Emotional withdrawal. Interesting. So we've got 8 of Cups energy. 8 of Cups energy coming in under the light card. So yeah, it really has to do with going inside. It really has to do with going on. It's not knocking over the cups. It's not saying, scratch this, all the work that I've done so far, I don't believe in that anymore as I work towards establishing my new belief system. No, that's not what it's about. You've done a lot of emotional work and a lot of emotional labor. And the point here, it's so beautiful when these two cards come out. This person who's sitting on the bridge, meditating on the choice, because you're at a crossroads here, is the same figure, I think, as the emotional withdrawal person. It sounds so serious, emotional withdrawal, but I really think that it's like you taking that time to sort of go into hermit mode is something that you may have to defend to other people who have very high expectations of you. And your addiction might be to your work. Your addiction may be to your work and performance and having a certain reputation of being the achiever when what's needed right now is like a total overhaul so that you can step into that lightness of the Fool energy. You're in the process, you're in the thick of it, and it has to do with allowing yourself to go within. Maybe stop watching tarot readings online for a little bit and just meditate. Even when you're tempted to turn on Netflix, to read a book, to go on YouTube, all that sort of stuff, maybe just recognize, oh, I feel that addiction, my desire to distract. What am I going to do instead? I'm going to sit quietly, even if it's torture, because, you know, it's kind of like this idea, like, oh, I can't go to the gym until I'm fit. It's like, well, the whole point of going to the gym is so that you get fit, and it's a process. You're certainly not going to be fit in the first week that you're there. You're going to start to feel better after it. It's the same with meditation and going in and really reflecting and connecting to that heart space is, you know, the reality that it's not going to necessarily be easy at first. But please have patience with yourself. Let's clarify the Choose Wisely card. Why is the Choose Wisely card here? Heart chakra. A matter of the heart. Yeah, dropping into that heart wisdom. Something going on that requires you to really, really reflect, and you have to do so in a solitary way, and it has to do with heart healing. It has to do potentially with, I don't see a broken heart here. The heart chakra can represent many, many things. It can be something to do with your own self-love. It can be something to do with family. It can be something to do with romance. It's very general, but it's just a call of your attention towards the heart chakra. And to me, that's like very much the meditative space. When I think about going into meditation, maybe it's because, you know, I've never done Vipassana. I started out with something called Hridaya meditation, which is heart-centered. It's the type of meditation that I know how to do. So meditation to me is always about dropping into this heart wisdom. That's where I go. I go to the throne of the heart. So I think that there's a pretty strong invitation here for you to do that. But let's clarify the patience card. Gosh, it's really making me feel tired. It's like a heaviness right now. Whew. What does Aries need to know about the patience card? October 2019. Patience clarified by patience. What do you know? Patience and planning. So this represents the 4 seasons behind those 2 columns. The 2 columns represent balancing with the dark and light, just like the priestess energy, but this is the realm of pentacles. So the body and wealth and prosperity. I get the sense that perhaps the body needs some attention. I'm really feeling your exhaustion right now. I think we're looking at some burnout, and I'm surprised that I don't see the 10 of Wands, but who knows? Who knows? Patience and planning. Under the patience card, you are going to have an inclination to get right to the planning. Please don't do that. Have the patience first as you navigate the choice that's relevant to your heart healing, which will only come from actually acknowledging and respecting the waiting game. Okay? Patience, patience, patience. We have 3 patience cards right now. Wow. That's a very clear message for you, Aries. I don't know, whoever is receiving this, I hope that it resonates, but you need to be patient about something. It involves tapping into the divine, tapping into your heart center. It will get better. You will move from like this really dark energy into the light, but the harder you push, the slower it's going to go. So just having that patience and not shifting into planning until you really, really feel like it's the right time. And planning wisely. I just heard the word disregard. Yeah, it's really like this disregard for, just don't worry about what other people think right now. I think you've got some like pretty intense pressure that you're both putting on yourself and that's coming from the outside. But the thing is, like, you're internalizing those messages from the outside, bringing it on the inside, and then it's almost like self-flagellation. Like you're kicking yourself while you're down instead of just being gentle with yourself. Please be gentle with yourself, Aries. Let's clarify that stand your ground card. Oh my goodness. Whoa. So many cards. What does Aries need to know for October 2019? Aries. All these cards all over the place. But the stand your ground card. What does Aries need to know? Oh my gosh, we just had this for, was it Pisces? Yeah, the temptation card, but it feels different. Pisces was very much about a love situation. This one is like, this is the temptation. I'm seeing this glowing orb. Before I felt like it was like the glowing of the divine. Now I see it as like a TV screen. I think this is like escapism, escaping your process. And you actually need to stand up for yourself, to yourself. You need to let yourself go through your healing process, and you're really, really impatient and distracting. It's totally okay to watch TV every once in a while, but you know, Netflix has that terrible thing where it just goes like one episode after the next, after the next, after the next. Unless you manually turn it off or something. It's like, don't fall into the avoidance trap. Stand your ground, stand up for yourself, stand up for your own process of healing. And there's the temptation to get distracted by sparkly things instead of, the reality is that the temptation card is exactly the same as the devil card. That's what this one is in this deck. This is the devil card. You've got it twice. Be scared. Just recognize it really is about addiction and I think escapism. I think that's a really big theme in this reading right now. Sorry, Aries, I know that's a lot, but the reality is that if you're able to take the advice of Spirit, which is very much about healing that heart center, recognizing that the period of emotional withdrawal is not necessarily a bad thing. So I'm going to speak to, I work as a counselor, I'm studying that, and I think it's really important to speak to the intricacies of depression. So if I'm speaking to someone who is dealing with depression, I want to make something very clear. Depression is complicated. It has neurophysiological basis, also genes, family history of trauma, so generational trauma, and then personal trauma and life experience. All of this ties up into it. And I don't like that in the spiritual community, sometimes people will say that depression is a choice. It's not that easy. When someone tells you that your mind is a prison and all you have to do is open the door and walk out, I call BS. It's a lot more complicated than that. So if what we're looking at right now is depression, one of the most profound things that I ever learned on my own journey was that periods of depression are, from a spiritual perspective, a healthier spiritual perspective that's not bypassing, for example, is that phases of depression or despair, deep despair, crippling anxiety, things like this, on a spiritual level can be an invitation from Spirit, from the universe, from the divine, from yourself, your higher self, whatever you identify with in your spiritual practice, an invitation for us to learn, to grow, and to recognize that the soul is awakening. It can be that these phases of despair and extreme discomfort is actually you on the precipice of your soul's awakening, and it's recognition that the way that things are going aren't working anymore. So then we have a choice point. We don't get to choose that we're going through that. We don't get to choose those feelings, but we can choose how we want to respond to it. And so this is an invitation to, at the same time as being very gentle with yourself and having that patience of moving through the phase and this waiting game, not giving into the temptation of being distracted only by television, maybe eating foods that aren't super duper good for us. Yes, it can be very hard when you're going through a difficult time to practice self-care, and so, eating anything is better than not eating at all, okay? But recognizing that, you do have the power to survive this. You do have the power to navigate this period of withdrawal, if this is what you're experiencing. If not, scratch it and find another reader. It's totally fine. I won't be offended. The invitation of these phases is to recognize that you are actually on the precipice of your own awakening at this point in your life, and you can choose to engage with it wholeheartedly, really dive into the process, go within and figure out what it's trying to tell you. The more we resist it, I think the harder it gets. And so it's about balancing, of course, Libra season, balancing the scales, temperance, which is what this card is equivalent to. It's about finding a balance between choosing to do something with this phase that is constructive and helpful for your heart healing and for your awakening, while also being very, very gentle with yourself, recognizing that it's a waiting game, recognizing that it's a time for patience and planning, not a time for action. You're probably too tired. Yeah. So, if you do feel that you are in a place where you might be a danger to yourself, I highly, highly encourage you to reach out for help, to call a suicide prevention hotline if that's something that you need. I do encourage that because there's always help out there, always, always, always. If this is not speaking to you and it's not quite to this level, you're simply going through, a challenging time, but not to that extent. This message is also for you. It doesn't have to be to any particular extreme. The message is still this: have compassion for yourself, patience with the process, knowing that you are going to come out the other end stronger, wiser, and far more capable to handle this new beautiful cycle that is opening up for you. Okay, that's the message. It's like Phoenix rising from the ashes. Really, really, really. Yeah. So I feel called to the wisdom of Avalon. What oracle message do we have for Aries at this time? What does Aries need to know? Just remember that everything is going to be okay, that this too shall pass. You're going to come out stronger and wiser on the other end, 100%, I believe. What does Aries need to know first? Oh my goodness gracious. Oh, that makes my heart happy. It's very autumnal. I see the fall leaves and the changing. I know that it can be difficult when the seasons change. That can also trigger some down feelings, but this is so beautiful and golden. It's just like an invitation to go walking, making me want to go walk on the mountain here in Montreal. It's the birth rebirth card. Look at that. Yeah. So obviously we weren't born yesterday, so this must be a rebirth card, but there's something that's coming from releasing the addiction to the old self, the perceptions of the old self, and stepping into the new. And I think it's really interesting because it's almost like it's like we have this shadow energy and this light energy, and they go so well with the birth rebirth card, the releasing of what's dead, like the leaves on the trees. The leaves aren't hanging on, they just let them go, because they know that when they do that, with patience, with, allowing the roots to grow deep over the winter, in the spring, the leaves will grow, the sun will come back out, and rebirth will happen in this new cycle. That is so beautiful. I love that. So I really, really strongly encourage you to keep your eyes focused on that lesson, that you will be the phoenix rising from the ashes. But right now we're going through the phase of burning those old belief systems down to the ground so that we can build something and grow tall from the nutrient-rich soil. I really hope that this helps, Aries. If you are looking for a private reading, feel free to reach out. Good luck with October 2019, and I will see you very soon.